Hello, teachers from all over the world. I am Tanya from TanyaTeacherTraining.com, and today in this video I'll be talking about some basic concepts related to reading. Then we will see the micro skills or soft skills that you can practice with your students in class, and finally about the steps when teaching reading. So, if you want to have a better comprehension about the principles and steps that will help you organize your reading lesson better, stay with us. And before we start, I'd like to remind you to subscribe and activate the notifications so you don't miss on anything, and you can participate in our teacher school regularly. Let's start, shall we? I have 3 concepts for you: bottom-up processing, top-down processing, and schemata. Research shows that a combination of top-down and bottom-up processing is a key ingredient in becoming an efficient reader. For bottom-up processing, what readers do is recognize words, phrases, and grammatical cues. So you can ask your students to find some vocabulary words or ask them to recognize the use of past simple and past continuous, in a story. In top-down processing, the reader relies on his experience of life in order to understand a text. The bottom-up processing is like taking a microscope to analyze a text, and the top-down processing is like taking an eagle's eye view of a landscape below. Now, how do readers construct meaning? How do they infer the writer's message? Those questions are addressed by the Schema Theory. Mark Clark and Sandra Silverstein describe the essence of the theory. They say readers understand what they read because they bring information, knowledge, emotion, experience, and culture to the reading. They can take the stimulus beyond the graphic representation and assign meaning to a group of concepts already stored in their memories. Your job is to activate students' schemata with a quick introduction to the topic of the reading in an interesting way for learners. Now, the second part, subskills or micro skills for reading comprehension. The first one is identifying the purpose in reading. Tell your students why they are reading something. Whenever you are teaching a reading technique, make sure your students know their purpose. Is it a reading about career choices and they are at university level? Be explicit about how this is going to help them. Number 2, the use of efficient silent reading for rapid comprehension. Now I'm going to tell you the rules for silent reading. Number 1, you don't need to pronounce each word to yourself. Number 2, visually perceive more than one word at a time, preferably phrases. And number 3, unless a word is crucial to global understanding, skip over it and infer meaning from context. Now, number 3, skim the text for main ideas. That is the same as reading for gist or global reading. Skimming means quickly running your eyes across a whole text. This gives readers the advantage of predicting the purpose of a passage, the main topic, and some supporting ideas. You can give learners some seconds to look through some pages, close the book, and then tell you what they learned. Number 4, scanning. Scanning the text for specific information. The second most valuable category is scanning. Why? Because it teaches students to look for names, dates, or find a definition. The purpose of scanning is finding information without reading through the whole text. Number 5, use of semantic mapping or clustering. The grouping of words into meaningful clusters helps readers to visualize easily the information given in the reading in a way they can handle it. Now, number 6, guessing meaning from context. First, the students need to guess the meaning of a word. Then they need to guess a grammatical relationship between words. After that, they infer the implied meaning. And finally, they guess about culture and references. Always encourage your students to use comprehension strategies in which they fill gaps by intelligent attempts to use the clues that are available to them. Now, number 7. Use discourse markers to process relationships. Examples of discourse markers are for one thing, firstly, secondly, in addition, however, etc. They signal relationships among ideas. Now, if a student knows the meaning of a word, for example, although, they will become more effective readers when they read this word because they will immediately expect to find a contrast in the following idea. The same happens with furthermore, for example, because this word comes and then you will find an idea that adds the same kind of information. So that's the way that they become more efficient readers. Now, number 8, intensive reading. When you practice intensive reading, your students will focus on the linguistic or semantic details of a passage. It calls for attention to grammatical forms and discourse markers. An example of this is when you say, from the reading, select all the verbs that are in past participle. Number 9, extensive reading. That is free reading for pleasure. This kind of reading is normally performed outside the class. And finally, the steps for approaching reading. Subdivide your techniques into pre-reading, while reading, and post-reading phases. Phase number 1, pre-reading. First of all, give students a purpose for reading, something they find useful, then spend some time introducing a topic, encouraging skim reading, predicting, and activating schemata. Students can bring a lot of knowledge when they are given the chance to ease into the passage. Number 2, while reading phase. Here's when students do scanning, deducing meaning from context, or intensive reading. You can ask them comprehension questions, or you can play a game with them about the content of the reading, for example. And finally, post-reading phase. How can you wrap up your lesson and still engage your learners? The key word is personalization. Finish your lesson with another skill practice. Students can talk about their own experience with a related topic, for example. Or you can do a follow-up writing exercise. How about writing a letter to a character involved in the reading? You see what I mean? Okay, teachers, that'll be all for today. Don't forget to subscribe and go to our website, but more importantly, write your questions in the comments. We would like to know about you. Check the link in the description. Bye!